Heinrich, we heard yesterday that ASEAN does not want to become European Union, that there's no political project to integrate to that extent. But at the same time, they've realized the benefits of free movement of goods, of capital and labor. I wonder if you could share your experiences of the sort of typical bottlenecks at the ground level in terms of moving goods and moving talent.
We bring goods into ASEAN from outside of ASEAN, and we also move goods from ASEAN countries to other ASEAN countries. And maybe I can answer your question from the perspective of a customer. And let me just tell you a story of a rice miller in Cambodia who decides to invest some of his profits back into his business, and he wants to build a biomass power plant. And he wants to upgrade his warehouse facilities, both in Cambodia and in his distribution subsidiary in Vietnam. So he buys a boiler and a steam turbine from Malaysia. The steam turbine is made up of components coming from all over the world, but since it's made in Malaysia, as is the boiler, in fact, the entire structure should be subjected to a 5% duty. But because it's in the exemption list, because it's power generating, in fact, the Cambodian authorities impose a 15% duty. Now the boiler is shipped from Malaysia. It turns out in Cambodia there are no cranes that can lift a 25-ton turbine from a ship, neither in Sihanoukville nor in Phnom Penh port, onto land. So the whole thing has to go to Ho Chi Minh first and then be trucked to Cambodia. When it's offloaded off the ship in Ho Chi Minh City and onto a truck, that truck can only drive to the Cambodian border, where because of the differences in the axle load limits between the two countries, the whole structure then has to be offloaded again from the truck and unloaded onto a Cambodian truck, adding logistics costs and risk of damage and time, etc. There's also no insurance policy that will cover the product all the way from Malaysia through Vietnam to Cambodia. So he has to get 3 insurance policies, and he also has to get 3 different logistics providers to quote. He's a little luckier with the 2 products that he needs for his warehouse upgrading. One is a sectional door, which he needs to close the warehouse at night, which is imported from Canada. And it turns out, even though that's outside of ASEAN, the sectional doors only have a duty of 5%, both in Cambodia and Vietnam. Trouble is, the exporter in Canada, in filling out the 14 different documents that he has to fill out, writes sectional doors on 13 of them, but only writes the word door on 1 of them. In Cambodia, that's not a problem, but in Vietnam, the customs official picks up the wording. And although he can open the container, which, by the way, since it's containerized, they can actually ship both to Ho Chi Minh City and to Sihanoukville. But when he sees this word door, even though he can open the container and see it's industrial sectional doors, and even though 13 of the 14 documents say sectional doors, he says it's a door, and so it's not subjected to 5%, but to 25% duty, because a door, a wooden door for a house, that's the duty that is imposed. So our Cambodian rice miller has to pay that. So it's a mixed picture there. The best example is the dock leveler, which he brings from Malaysia. It's produced in Malaysia. It's shipped, it's containerized, so it can be shipped both to Cambodia and Vietnam. There's no problem with insurance. There's no problem with logistics. The product arrives on time and without any glitches. So the viewpoint from this customer is that ASEAN is somewhere halfway. It's a lot better than it used to be, but it's not as good as it could be.